Hey everybody, thank you so much. This is Ty Hicks, and I thank you so much for tuning into this little quick book review. I put these little videos together because I understand that, you may not have, the full time necessary to digest all of these books, even though there's so many out there that have got something to offer to you. And, just a little quick fact, I know I've mentioned this in other videos as well, but, most of the high earning CEOs in the entire country have a weekly or daily discipline of reading a book. Either they're reading a book a week or a book a day. And, if you're saying to yourself, well, there's no way I could possibly do something like that because I don't have the time. Well, just think, they've got the same number of days and minutes and hours as you do. So take a good hard look at how you're spending your time and really think, what's even a sacred spot in my day where I can carve out 15 minutes to bring new content into my mind and enrich it. Because as long as you are really enriching the mind with some new thoughts every single day, then it's growing stronger. And it really is a practice that I've incorporated into my own life. I recommend for all of my clients, and for anybody I know who does it, no matter how much or how little, they really can say that it just enriches their whole quality of life. They end up showing up with more insights for their team, for their organization, for their partners, for their different relationships, whatever the case is. So anyway, today's book of discussion is Good to Great. So this is written by Jim Collins, and really fantastic book. He was also the author of Built to Last. And Jim Collins is somebody who's been fascinated with the performance of for-profit organizations. And in Good to Great, what he was really perplexed by was, why is it that some companies, as he puts it here as in the subtitle, why some companies make the leap and others don't, right? So given particular market trends in the market, why is it that some companies have completely excelled and beat the market 3 or 4 times over, while others have not and have failed? So in this book, he does some really fantastic research with his team, and he uncovers a lot of answers. So what he did is he picked, I think it was somewhere between 10 and 12 companies to look at. And the company had to have been in existence for, I think it was 10 years, for a solid period of time before they had a big increase in terms of their market value. They also had to beat the market by, I think it was a minimum of 4 times over. And the other element that's really interesting about the research is that they also looked at comparison companies, right? So they had Circuit City versus, I forget the name of it, but some other company that failed, and so Circuit City at the time, was actually a good to great company. We now know that they're bankrupt, but Jim actually comes back and answers that in the afterwards. So this is in a revised and expanded edition, and he attributes that to the company failing to follow the good to great principles over the long term. So really interesting read, and really a lot of insights here. I want to share with you 3 of the biggest insights I got from this book. So he obviously creates a sort of framework for, what are these good to great companies doing, and what are they doing in common? So the first thing that I really want to share with you that's been very impactful that we've incorporated here with our organization is this principle of getting the right people on the bus, as Collins likes to put it. So he recognized that all of the good to great companies prioritized getting the right talent on their team, even if they didn't know what those team members would be doing. They literally prioritized getting the right talent, getting the right people on the bus, even if they didn't know what seats those people were going to fill on the bus. And this is a lesson I learned the hard way, leading a multi-million-dollar nonprofit organization alongside my president. And I got to tell you, it is 100% true. We've had 2 different types of moments. We've had moments where there is an opening, there is a sort of urgency to fill an opening in the company, and we've said, this person may be less than ideal, but we got to get them in here because we've got urgency. We tried that before, it failed miserably. Horrible, horrible, horrible practice. And in fact, Collins recommends, when in doubt, don't hire. However, we've also had the flip side experience where we've had people where we said, holy cow, this person is exactly the right kind of team fit. They've got the right psychology. They're literally everything in terms of who we want to have here. But we don't even know where they would go. We don't have a current opening, or we're unsure how they would apply their talents best. But when we prioritized getting them here, no matter what, it was always a benefit for us. So that's a huge one. Getting the right people on the bus is critical. And by the way, you might be listening to this and going, wait a minute, I don't have hiring power, I don't have firing power, I'm not an executive, what am I supposed to do with this information? Well, chances are you're still managing a team of some sorts. You may be overseeing interns, or you may have, lower tier staff that are a part of your purview, or at the very minimum, you've got some level of influence and sway with individuals who do have hiring and firing power. So that's how you can have an impact. The other way you can have an impact too, by the way, is to also be thinking in terms of, the volunteers you bring into your organization, or the donors you bring into your organization, or the board members, or the trustees, or the companies that you decide to work with in partnerships. All of this is critical. If you don't have the right people in business with you, you're never going to have the right business. So that's number one. Number two, from the book is what Collins calls the hedgehog concept. Now, I actually forget the exact metaphor as to why he calls it the hedgehog concept, but the hedgehog concept is essentially this idea that all of the good to great companies made some hard decisions about what it was that they were going to focus on. And all of the companies asked themselves a couple of key critical questions. The first was, what are we most excited about? Okay, so you're never going to get somebody else, namely a customer, excited about your business or service if you are not excited about it and believe in it first. This is actually one of the biggest principles I share when I train people nationally on principles of influence, and that is you are never going to give somebody something that you don't already have. So if you are not sold on your own product, you're never going to sell somebody else on it. Number two, the second question that is of what they would ask themselves is not only what can we get excited about, but what can we become the best in the world at? And this actually reminds me of another book that I've read on blue ocean strategy. Won't dive super in depth on that right now, but the good to great companies really ask themselves, how can we separate ourselves? What can we be distinct in? What can we really become masters at? And by answering that question, they got some hard answers in many cases. This meant that they had to cut other programs or other services. And, any of you who've worked in an organization, there is a sort of temptation to want to be in all places at once. There's this idea of, we can start this, we can work here, we can do this. Well, the good to great companies, in fact, actually said, what do we need to eliminate so that we can laser focus in on this one hedgehog concept that is both, capturing what we're excited about and also what we can become the best in the world at. So that's really, really critical, is that hedgehog concept. And the third and final piece that I wanted to mention to you is this idea of a flywheel. And this is a metaphor that Collins uses. So imagine you're in a room and there is a giant metal wheel, right, in the middle of the room, and there's a lever on the wheel, and you're trying to get the wheel spinning. And it's huge, it's just massive, tons, it's like thousands of pounds, right? So you're pushing and pushing and pushing, and you're literally seeing no movement whatsoever on that flywheel at all. And then finally, you get it to budge a little bit. You see just a little bit of movement, and you keep that pressure on, and slowly but surely, more and more movement starts happening. And then eventually something crazy happens. And that is that as you start moving the wheel more easily, eventually the sheer weight of this giant metal flywheel actually starts working in your favor now, in such a way in which the momentum starts becoming perpetuating. And so now you actually can use less pressure, but if you apply more pressure, you increase the acceleration even faster, to the point where you literally reach a moment when the flywheel is spinning in perpetuity, and you can step back and you can watch as it continues to spin. What a fantastic moment, right? So this is the metaphor that Collins uses to describe the progress these companies made once they actually identified that hedgehog concept, right? So think of this in 3 unique phases. Number 1, get the right people on the bus. First who, then what? Secondly, figure out what is all the crap we need to cut out of the way so we can focus in on our hedgehog concept and commit to mastery in that level and in that area. Third and finally, apply pressure on that flywheel. Apply pressure on that hedgehog concept until you reach the breakthrough moment where it's spinning and spinning and spinning, and you can stand back and realize that you've created a self-sustaining system. So what's interesting is that this book came to me at a time where I'd already been an influential leader in my own organization for a number of years. And what's fascinating is I got to tell you that what happened with our organization that has led to our success is literally parallel to the principles that Collins lays out in this book. We did have to prioritize getting the right people on the bus. That was number 1. And even in cases where we didn't know where they were going to go. Number 2, we had to figure out, okay, what are we going to become the best in the world at, and what do we need to get out of the way so that we can focus in that area. And then thirdly, we applied pressure like no other over the course of a year and a half, and finally we've got that flywheel spinning and it's humming. And we've got a self-sustaining system where the momentum and inertia of the organization is literally leading to its own growth. So that is an exciting place to be. And I've been, by the way, I've been in the place where you don't have the right people on the bus, where you're focusing in all the wrong areas, you don't know what you need to do in order to master the basics, and you feel like you're just that guy at the very beginning pushing on that flywheel and seeing no movement and thinking you're never going to get that damn thing moving. So I point that out to you, not to boast, but to point out to you that if you're in the spot where you're uncertain about the performance of your organization, hone in on some of these key principles, and you and I can start a conversation as well about how we can help you accelerate results in that area. But trust me, it is better on the other side, and things do get better. So anyway, the book is Good to Great by Jim Collins, available obviously in hardcover or Audible. The hardcover's got lots of really good, graphics and little, images and such that kind of break the concepts down for you. Check it out, and I'd love to hear, has this book impacted you? Has any of the concepts that I've shared with you been useful to you? How might you apply this in your leadership? As always, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you taking action, learning some new strategies that might be able to take your life to the next level, and hope to see you next time. Thank you.